Welcome back to the lineup here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Let's dive into some MLB hot stove here, of course. Mr. Del Yates loves to talk White Sox and Cubs there on Major Onions, having some great blogs as well. So let's talk some White Sox, my favorite baseball team. Of course, I'm sporting the White Sox sweatshirt if you're watching through our camera on radiodepal.edu. Of course, from 2005, the World Series championship. Glorified sweatshirt that I haven't gotten rid of ever since. So let's dive into the White Sox here. Del and Paul. The White Sox, I didn't think they were going to make many moves after they didn't resign Curtis Granderson. And you mentioned this in your blog that getting Adam Eaton was a Kenny Williams move, and I disagree with that because I thought Granderson would have been a Kenny Williams move, and then you get Adam Eaton, who's a speedster and a young guy who you're going to have under control. That's why I would have thought it would have been a Rick Hahn kind of move.
Yeah, looking back on it, it could have been a Hahn move, but I just think Kenny Williams has got his fingerprints still on this franchise. I just want somebody from the White Sox organization to come out and say what their direction is. Are they rebuilding? Are they trying to win? Last year I was at that press conference that Rick Hahn had after I believe the last trade was Matt Thornton. I might be wrong. And he talks about, we've gotten rid of a lot of bad salary, but we're not rebuilding. We're trying to win ball games.
And he was acting like the White Sox were still in it for the rest of the season, and you're thinking, are you serious? They're way out of this thing.
They were way out of it. The team had quit on Robin Ventura, another guy that I'm really surprised is back. If you had seen Robin's body language all year long. And then you go out and you sign the kid from Cuba, who's an unknown commodity. You give him a lot of money, and I don't blame the White Sox for that because that's the going rate. It just is. That's the way baseball is played right now.
Right. Someone has to do it.
Somebody's got to do it, and the White Sox decided they wanted to do it. And now you go out and you get this Eaton kid, and I don't mind those moves. I think those are good moves. I think there's a franchise that needed to get younger for sure. But just come out and say what you're supposed to, what you want to do. Just don't keep doing what you're doing where you're just avoiding fans' questions. So it'll be interesting when the White Sox come back into town for their festival and they're taking questions. It'll be interesting if somebody steps up and asks Kenny Williams or Rick Hahn, what is the plan? Are you trying to win now or are you trying to win in the future? Because if you're trying to win now, you need to make some major moves because they might have the worst position players as a group in the American League, maybe outside of Houston.
I would have to agree with that. I'd say you could be looking at a 95-loss season, possibly a 100-loss season, depending on if they can solve. I mean, their infield is a joke. The catcher position is really inferior. You got to hand it to the Cubs in that last year and then this year, you could say that the Cubs have went up on the White Sox and that we know there's a full teardown and then a full rebuild going on. And we know kind of what their stage, once they got like the Soriano contract off the books, it's like, okay, the Cubs are starting to finish the teardown. With the White Sox, we haven't had a full teardown yet, and you need that before the rebuild even starts.
See, I agree with that, but then you're looking at 2007, and that was a complete, utter collapse with the White Sox. I believe 99 or 100 losses as well. And then 2008, they won the division crown for the AL Central. So I think this Sox team could win it again.
They've got the pitching.
Right, they do it. They have a pitching staff. The young guy, Paulino from the Royals, he had a 1.41 ERA in April, and he could be the replacement for Hector Santiago. So the Sox could be, an offseason away from winning the division crown again. We just have to see the moves that Rick Hahn makes. That's why I'm saying I might support his argument that they're not rebuilding. It might just take an offseason, and I think you have to have a full season to consider rebuilding.
And, Paul, what really just amazes me is you bring back Tyler Flowers as your catcher. Then you sign this kid from Cuba, this young player that needs at bats to grow as a player. He's 26 years old, so he certainly isn't a minor league prospect anymore.
He's awful.
And you bring back Paul Konerko. You're going to jam up that first base position between Adam Dunn, Konerko, and the kid from Cuba who needs the at bats. I just don't know the direction, and it's not like, hey, we're bringing back Paul Konerko, the guy that's going to rock the box office. I mean, as great a player as he's been, when was the last time you heard a White Sox fan say, hey, I'm going to the ballpark to watch Paul Konerko play?
Exactly. It's not the NBA where it's an individual sport masquerading as a team sport.
Yeah.
baseball is an individual sport in the sense of at the plate, and you look at the batting statistics, but otherwise it is a team sport. And Konerko doesn't. Why not have him as an ambassador like the Blackhawks did with Dennis Savard, or the Bulls have done with Pippen? He's still part of the team. He doesn't clog up all that salary. He doesn't clog up the first base.
See, I would have loved Konerko to be a coach or a manager at some point. I don't know if he wants to do that. I don't know if he has. I thought he would have been perfect for it just because he seems like he has the mentality. But
he might be a front office guy at some point. He's really a bright guy if you've ever talked to him. He's made so much money. Does he really need to do the grind like Robin Ventura is going through? Maybe he even looks at Robin Ventura as he just melts through the year, seeing these Diaza drop fly balls in center field every night at the cell. And maybe he just says, maybe I want to be a front office guy, or a roving minor league instructor of some kind. That wouldn't surprise me at all with Paul Konerko. I just don't know why you bring him back. Because he's not Sammy Sosa. He's not box office magic like Sosa was down at the north side.
Well, I mean, to Konerko's point, he did say he didn't want to go out on a losing season like he did, and that's how much he cares about the White Sox organization. He doesn't want. He's been with the Sox for 16 years. He doesn't want to see this team lose like they did last season. He wants to be a part of a winning culture yet again, and that's why I give him some credit. But I do agree with you, and you made this point last week, Del, that Konerko come opening day, is he really going to want to split duties with Adam Dunn at DH? I don't know.
I don't know why he would. Not with the type of numbers he's put up and the type of ego he's got. And I'm not saying he's this egomaniac like a Michael Jordan, but if you have the type of career that Paul Konerko's had, you have an ego. And when he's sitting on the bench watching some Cuban kid muff a ground ball down to first base in August and see Adam Dunn do what he does best, strike out 3 times in one game, is Paul Konerko going to sit on that bench and with his pom-poms and supposedly instructing this Cuban kid on how to play first base? Please. Paul Konerko's a player. He's not a coach, and he didn't re-sign to sit on the bench. So I'm not buying into this whole Paul Konerko is going to be a mentor towards these young White Sox players.
Well, Eli, I agree with you that they could be just an offseason away from winning the division because the division is so weak and the division is so bad. But the problem is all these trades, especially some of the last trades Kenny made, they mortgage their future. All their prospects have been traded away, and I still think they needed to tear it all down because that farm system is so depleted.
It's the worst in baseball in my mind. And I really watch a lot of minor league stuff, and they have a barren farm system, which, outside of if Jerry wasn't so committed to his employees, if he wasn't so loyal to a fault, Kenny Williams would have been out of any other franchise the way he's left this White Sox franchise right now.
That's a valid point, and let's look at the White Sox depth chart here coming up for next season. You're looking at Diane Viciedo, the tank in left field as Hawk Harrelson, and talking about Hawk, he didn't make the Hall of Fame in that category either. So you're looking at Frank Thomas and now Hawk Harrelson.
Yeah, I mean Hawk Harrelson, whether you like him or not, and most people that aren't White Sox fans can't stand him, but Hawk Harrelson.
Yeah, there's a reason I don't watch White Sox games on television.
You're not a fan?
No,
you either love him or you hate him. But
I can't stand him.
But at least he's better than the North Side. At least he has an opinion. I'll give him that. You listen to Jim
but
DeShays.
He's a show though. It's an act.
He sells it like nobody else.
Len Casper, I'm not a Cubs fan, but he's a terrific play-by-play guy, and I love Hawk Harrelson.
Len's your typical today's type of broadcaster. He's not going to go off the cuff on somebody dropping an infield fly like a Marty Brennaman or Harry Carey before him. But Jim DeShays will bore you to sleep. Keith Moreland was even worse.
Yeah, Moreland was pretty terrible, but I still believe that a broadcast is about the game. It shouldn't be about the broadcaster, and Hawk has turned it around to make himself the star of the show. And sorry, we're here to watch a game. We're not here to listen to you.
That's valid. I do respect that opinion. The White Sox fans, though, who are White Sox? Who are the White Sox appealing to when they're broadcasting these games? I understand that other fans are tuning in too, but they want to appeal to White Sox fans, and maybe a couple of them are the few thousand out of the 10,000 or 20,000 that are listening or watching a night are displeasured with Hawk Harrelson, but otherwise they're fine with it.
I love hearing the Catfish Hunter stories, the Johnny Pesky stories. It's just, I just find Hawk.
Carl
to be
Yastrzemski?
amusing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Hawk will make, and which makes the humor of it even better. Hawk will make you think that he was as good as Lou Gehrig. And you look at Hawk's career, and Hawk had one good year. But
one good year.
yeah, he had one good year. If you look at Hawk's numbers when he was with the Red Sox, and Hawk will also make you believe that he was the next Lee Trevino on the golf course, and he was anything but. But I think Hawk deserves a place in the Hall of Fame. I see a lot of broadcasters that are in the Hall of Fame right now that I wouldn't have put in the Hall of Fame. So if you're going to put those types of writers and those types of voices into the Hall of Fame, I go ahead and put the Hawk.
I think maybe if I was alive in the 60s or the 50s when Hawk was a young rebel and everything, because I saw that MLB documentary on him.
That was great.
I was like, I would have liked that Hawk Harrelson, that like Joe Namath light type of guy, but I only know the extreme
egotistical.
Homer.
Now,
Well, the thing about Hawk's ego is that I've been credentialed for White Sox games, and I've seen the plaque on the press box. And if you walk into a place every day where there's a plaque of you and your likeness on there, honored, your ego's gonna be out into the stratosphere, no matter who you are.
here's the one reason you put Hawk in the Hall of Fame. When he got into it with Jay Mariotti, and he grabbed Mariotti, and they had to break up Hawk from beating Jay Mariotti to death right up in the media area. For that alone, for Hawk making the attempt to whip his backside of Jay Mariotti, one of the most hated men in media history, you put Hawk in the Hall of Fame for that alone.
That's true, and you know what? I've grown up to watching White Sox games. I understand I'm biased because I'm a White Sox fan and a Cubs hater for life. And Jake Alderman on the other side of the studios agree with me over there. But my friends and I, all we do in watching Sox games is imitate Hawk Harrelson
And laugh.
We just say, "I'll tell you," and we just go on and on and on because he's the funniest broadcaster I've ever seen and ever listened to in my life.
Now
And he said, "Hawk, I told you."
Now
It's a great impression.
That little feud that was going on a couple of years ago between him and Steve Stone is fact. Out of nowhere, just off the top of my head, we had lunch. It was me, Chet Kopic, Steve Stone, and Mark Gonzalez. 2 seasons ago. And Stone came out of nowhere, guys. We didn't even know it was going on, that there was a feud going on there. And Stone said that you could, and this is really bad.
I heard this on the Score, too.
Yeah, Stone said you could put, you don't even need Hawk there. All you need is a tape recorder, because he says, can of corn, put it on the board, and another Hawkism he used.
Stretch.
Yeah.
Stretch.
He looks up.
He says, I really don't need Hawk there.
Luckily they become a little better together.
Well, I've heard that Jerry, the chairman, a year ago sat them down after the season and said, I'll fire you both if you don't get along, which is a joke in itself because Jerry couldn't fire anybody unless he really hates you. And they did. They made it a better broadcast, and Stone will tell you that they get along a lot better.
Let's hope so, or else the White Sox are in for problems. And we've seen it in the booth this year. You know, Hawk Harrelson wrote, or he was in an article this season talking about when the White Sox were losing games in June that he was about to have a heart attack in the booth. That's how much he cares about this organization as well.
He's been quoted as saying he takes those losses worse than the players.
He probably does.
Oh, without a doubt. He'll tell you. All you have to do is ask Hawk. Hawk loves to talk about himself, Eli. All you got to do is ask him.
Oh, yeah. And then when he tells the story, he always does it in the third person. As the other person, usually Carl Yastrzemski or whoever it is.
He has a Ken Harrelson and a Hawk Harrelson. As I was watching the documentary, he has two names to call himself.
Right. It's like Magic Johnson versus Irvin Johnson. Oh God, there was somebody. I'm trying to think of who is using that now too. There was another athlete.
LeBron?
No, it was somebody who got
LeBron calling himself third person.
It was somebody that was trying to use that as an excuse for when they do something wrong. It was some athlete who got in trouble or suspended recently, and he was just like, "Oh well, that's not me. That's my alter ego who did that."
You know, it's too bad that we didn't think about it when Kopic was on. Kopic's got a million Hawk Harrelson stories, and they're all really funny. So the next time you have Chet on, make sure the subject matter is Hawk Harrelson, because he can tell you some really good stories.
A really funny story before we have to take a break here from the documentary was when he was on the Kansas City Royals, I believe that was their name at the time, and he was talking, and I guess he was getting the feuds with the owner or the GM, and the GM called him at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they said, "Hawk, you've been traded to the Boston Red Sox," and he hung up the phone.
Yeah,
and that was